Now, US regulators are trying to block Microsoft from buying the firm Activision Blizzard, which is behind games such as Call of Duty and Candy Crush. It's because of a concern over competition. Now, the regulators worry that the $69 billion deal would mean Activision games would stop being available on non-Microsoft gaming consoles. To tell us more about this, our gaming correspondent Stefan Powell is with us. So just a bit more detail regarding this deal. Has it come as a surprise?
Not really, because there's been a lot of whispers about this and a lot of disquiet in the FTC with the deal for a while. And like you've mentioned, the Competition and Markets Authority here in the UK has also raised questions about this and is investigating potentially, should this deal go through, it'll be the biggest deal in video gaming history by some distance, $70 million, pretty much around £60 million. And if you put that into context in terms of other industries as well, to sort of show the power of the games industry, when it's a long time ago now, over a decade ago, but when Disney bought Marvel, for example, of course, the makers of all the superhero movies, that was worth $4 billion. And when Facebook bought Instagram in 2012, that was $1 billion. So this is a $70 billion deal. So it's a massive in scope. And so the level of scrutiny is matching it. And essentially what's happening is there's a lot of politics at play here in the States. There are many Democrats on the FTC, and they're concerned about monopolies, especially in the technology sector. And so they're taking this very seriously, which is why that it's now going to be decided by a court in the US as to whether or not this deal can go ahead. And like you've mentioned, essentially it comes down to competition. There's a concern that if Microsoft owned these mega franchises like Call of Duty, which has, over 70 million players worldwide playing its current title at the moment, if it owned those games, it could then potentially restrict access to those titles for people who don't own Xbox consoles. So, for example, Sony PlayStation have been unhappy about the deal because they say that, hang about, if all these titles made by Activision Blizzard become Microsoft exclusive, that puts them in too much of a powerful, prominent position in the market. And so it's unfair. And that's how we've ended up in this situation.
Is there precedent for that happening with tech companies, Stefan?
Well, on this scale in the gaming industry, there isn't. This is fairly new ground for the gaming industry. There's never been a deal of this scope before. Should the deal go through, Microsoft would become the third biggest games player in the games market. There's a company that is based or originated from China called Tencent that is the market leader at the moment. Then you've got Sony as well, who produce the Microsoft consoles and other games. And then you'd have Microsoft in third place should this deal go ahead. And so that is a concern for some of the people looking into this, is the fact that this is new ground. It hasn't really been seen before. And with a sector that changes so rapidly all of the time, the way that competition affects players and people at home who spend their hard-earned money on these games is always changing as well, and trends change quickly. And so trying to keep up with that is very difficult, which is perhaps why that some people in the FTC are trying to sort of slow this process down and have a look at what this will mean long term. As for Microsoft and Activision themselves, who clearly want the deal to go through, they signed the agreement in the first place earlier on this year. They're quite frustrated because what they're saying publicly is actually this deal would be good for competition. And they've already sort of made overtures to some other games companies like Nintendo to try and work with them in the future. It's quite murky. It's quite complicated. But what it does mean is that, there is a degree of uncertainty for gamers now over the next few months while this plays itself out. Because if I'm a Call of Duty player, if I love playing Call of Duty, there is uncertainty at the moment as to what devices I will be able to play that game in the future. So people are waiting with bated breath to see what will happen with this decision, which will now go ahead in front of a judge in the US in the coming months.
Stefan Powell, thank you so much for that. Thank you.